Hi, folks. Welcome to another episode of Film Study. This is Ken McCusick, and it's time for this week's matchups episode. And again, we're going to have two this week. The first on the offense against the Chiefs, so we'll have another one later on the defense. Look for that one. Joining me, of course, for both is co-host Frazier Tafar. Frazier, how you doing?
Doing good, Ken. Excited to be on for an AFC Championship game special. We've been waiting for this for a long time. I know a lot of fans have been waiting since 1971 to see their team with an AFC Championship game back in Baltimore.
Yeah, huge deal here to have this game here. In a lot of ways, it's the biggest game in Ravens history from that perspective, anyway. But they're still a game short of the Super Bowl as well, and winning this game is absolutely essential to fulfilling the mission of this 23 team. We had the question come up on the other show: is would you still consider this a good year if the Ravens lose this game to the Chiefs on Sunday?
I would say, in a sense, yes. I think we exercised some demons. Winning the first divisional game, getting to this point isn't easy. I would be obviously we'd be excited if we win this game, but I think we do have to take it in perspective that we did take the next step, but we did fall short of our ultimate goal. So
this was more of a year where more resources were spent and borrowed from the future to do so. I think it's a success for a lot of reasons in terms of how they got to this point, in terms of all the good teams they beat to get here, in terms of the coming back and overtaking the Chiefs late in the season for that number one seed. There's so many things about how they beat the crap out of really good teams the whole way that I think you will take from this season. We'll always remember very fondly, even if they lose this game, but we'll remember them a lot more fondly if they win this game and give us that home AFC Championship win we really crave here.
Yeah, I just don't want those wins to get undermined. We just need to finish the job for sure.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're here to talk about the Ravens on offense and what are the key matchups against the Chiefs on defense. Do we want to give a little bit of a background here on who the Chiefs are or whatnot? Or do you want to jump right in with your first key to the game and maybe we'll hit those on the fly?
We can give a quick little background. I think an overview of their defense is they have their star up front, Chris Jones, on the defensive line. He's their main guy. They don't really have too many X factors on the defensive edge or interior other than him. Linebackers, only person that is notable is Bolton. The other linebackers just kind of sub in and out and just give them each other spills. And then their secondary, Snead, McDuffie, and who's the other?
Josh Williams.
Their secondary is their strength of the defense, and that's where we need to be careful when we attack. So one of my first matchups is our offensive line keying in on Chris Jones. I think being able to mitigate his attack and how the Chiefs try to set him up to get him one-on-ones could ruin their game plan on containing their offense.
Definitely, Chris Jones is the guy. The guest we had, Matty Lane from Kansas City, really talked about how Chris Jones is the guy they try and set up play after play. That's a lot of how their pass rush scheme works. Spagnuolo is a very talented and very adept defensive coordinator, makes a lot of adjustments on the fly. And he's one of the really good ones in terms of game planning for a specific opponent, but also in terms of changing during the game. So this is going to be quite a coordinator matchup with Monken in terms of staying ahead of those kind of adjustments, which is one of the keys for me. But I think in particular, it matters relative to to Jones himself and how they deal with him. Offensive line as a whole needs to hold up in this game. We know that, but how they're able to do that in terms of taking care of Chris Jones will be one of the central factors.
Yep, and I think we can anticipate Chris Jones lining up on John Simpson and just that A gap on that side in between him and Linderbaum. I think that's going to be where they attack, even on Stanley's B gap. I don't think the one thing I've never seen the Ravens do in terms of pass protection is put their running back right behind the guard and make it
sniffer.
Yep, and make him a great live. Like, it's tough for running backs to go all the way across the formation to make blocks. We've seen Justice Hill do it, but having that running back right there for the interior guy like Chris Jones could be the key for this game.
They could do it with Ricard. He would be
Yep.
the natural guy, and he's a guy who can be used in motion as well. Of course, any running back can, but you can get him to the right spot where Chris Jones is to try and put an extra body into his ribs, which I really like the idea of that. By the way, it's definitely something that can be done. Now, Spagnuolo is no fool, and he'll see that happening, and he'll try and get somebody else free because of it.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, it'll be a back and forth day of adjustments. That's what I'm really expecting from this game, and it'll be a lot of fun. You mentioned the strength of the Kansas City defense being the three corners specifically. So it's Jones, the three corners. Nick Bolton's okay. Don't think they have anyone at safety who the Ravens have to really be feared of. They obviously have an injury to Edwards now. He's a concussion, may not be back. But McDuffie, Snead, and Josh Williams are all absolutely terrific players. Josh Williams is a really unknown guy in that group, but he's only allowed 3.6 yards per target this year.
Mm-hmm.
Snead's at 5.0 yards per target, but he's also got 17 penalties. So he's the guy they leave out on an island a lot. He's a holder of the holdingest degree. And one of the nice things, I think there's the good chance is that Snead will go to cover Bateman and not Chase Flowers. So I think that would be my guess is they'll put Snead on the number 2 receiver and try and see what they need to do on the other side of the field to make that happen. Now Bateman's not out there every play, so it could be a mix of Bateman and OBJ. But from a lot of perspectives, we'd love to have Snead on Flowers because I think that's a grab fest waiting to happen that we certainly hope gets called. But I think McDuffie makes a lot of sense in terms of trying to defend Flowers and being a very careful defender who can play very good underneath zone defense if you want him. But McDuffie's just had, since his college days, has had remarkable statistics in terms of yards per target. He's actually at 7.5 this year, which might be the worst year of his career so far, but he's been extremely good coming up.
I mean, if I hear Snead on Bateman, I think that's a grab fest as well. I think Bateman has been turning it on all season, and he's been, even though the catches are not there, the level of catches, just the intensity, the moments in the game, I think it's big time that Rashad Bateman has got on strong. Key catch that he had last week was on the 97-yard drive in the second half, coming across the middle. Lamar underthrew him a little bit. He came back and made the grab because he knows we need that catch. And then he had another catch on a tip pass by Petrie that he concentrated and was able to grab that ball as well. So I'm looking forward to seeing Rashad Bateman and the receivers take that next step against this secondary and being able to prove that they can be with the best, and hopefully seeing OBJ make a big play as well.
Yeah, it's with some wet weather on tap, the field will be a little bit slick. Hopefully the Ravens will get their shoes right, but it's the cornerbacks whose impact on the game may be somewhat minimized. And I think that really plays into the Ravens' hands. If you look at the three cornerbacks, the Kansas City has, that's a significant component of their star power on defense is those three players. If you look at the Ravens, it's not the heart and soul of the team. Brandon Stevens has played well. He's actually on a kind of a bad run right now, where he's allowed almost 10 yards per catch for the last 3 games. 10 yards per target. Sorry, 10 yards per target for the last 3 games. Darby has been good. Mollett has been good, but what's made them good is having kind of a limited zone role because of the way the Ravens play their safeties and put them into a good position to make plays. A rainy field is going to force teams to consider more zone defense, period, which I think really takes away or mitigates one of the real big Kansas City strengths.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to seeing how they deploy the tight ends to help facilitate that. I don't think their linebackers are going to be able to handle Likely, first of all. And then if Andrews is in the game, they're not going to be able to handle all pro as well. So it's going to be interesting how they match up the safeties. I don't see Bolton being able to cover in space against anyone on our team. Personally, I don't know where he's probably just going to be the middle zone or a robber. If that becomes the case, it just doesn't make sense to have him on the field. I expect him to play dime majority of the game if we get into a pass mode. which I hope not. I hope it's run second half. But if it becomes that point, I don't see them keeping Bolden on the field. He's just a liability. So I'm excited to see us start the game quick. I know we talked about this in production. I anticipate us potentially going play action a lot in the beginning, trying to hit short boots, get Lamar into space, be able to get the ball out quick, and set up the run with the pass.
It certainly sounds good to me after watching the first half this last week. And, Lamar faced, first of all, 84% 5+ rushers in the game, which is an unbelievable number of blitzes for a single game. The comparable game is the Miami game from a couple of years ago where they had 40 cover zero looks. But even that, they dropped a lot of players to coverage from those cover zero looks. They brought pressure time after time. They were bringing an extra man, and it's an off-ball player they were generally bringing. So they were bringing somebody either off the slot or from level 2. And it's really, Lamar did not react to it well. And then they went into halftime and they made adjustments. The best example I have, the 5-man rush, they did 6 times in the first half, 1 yard. They did it 6 times also in the second half, and the Ravens got 63 yards, 10.5 yards per play. So they turned it right around. I mean, it was visible as hell as soon as they came out with the very first pass play in the second half. Was a little 9-yard completion, I think. And I'm very happy if the Ravens come out just kind of sticking it to the Chiefs that way right off the start.
Yeah, you don't want to call it rust in the beginning of the game last week, but it almost looked like that when they came out in the second half and just scored 4 straight consecutive possessions. I think we hope to see that pick up where it left off and not have to see the waiting game again, see them kind of get back in the groove. I don't know. We're going to continue to see the rotation at tackle, I think. I don't know if chip help would be necessary in this game. I think we can stick with a 6-man protection with just the running back and not have to force a tight end or a receiver out.
Hill missed a block this last week, but he's generally been very good this year in terms of his pass blocking. And he's been used, seems like between 5 and 7, even more than that sometimes, times per game in the combination of set and chip blocks. Set blocks usually around 4 to 5 per game. He's been very good. He's been, I think they'll lean on him as part of trying to stop Kansas City. Kansas City, by the way, they do have people other than Chris Jones who get sacks, but a lot of that still is a matter of the coverage really complementing their pass rush and allowing people to get home. The quick winner is Chris Jones, but Karlaftis is a good pass rusher, and they have other guys who can get there when the coverage is creating opportunity for them. One of the nice things about having Lamar Jackson is he can leave the pocket on some of those plays.
Yep, and I do anticipate him to continue to use his legs. I mean, last week is exactly what I expected to see from Lamar. Take off when he needs to, throw the ball when he needs to, no indecisiveness, no trying. It's just like the second half, it looked like he didn't think. He's just playing. Yeah. And I think he's going to continue to do that. He's going to continue to play his game, Lamar ball, as he calls it. People have seen in the beginning of the season, he kind of restricted his running. They had on Ravens Wired where they had a little snippet that Roquan said that Lamar said, I'm going to show you what I'm doing in the playoffs. And, or the linebackers coach was like, yeah, he learned. So it was interesting to kind of hear that little situation between them, that within the club, they know Lamar has been holding back. And now we're actually seeing what Lamar truly is. And I'm excited to see what an AFC championship brings out of him.
Well, the future is right now. And honestly, if there's any 2 games you're going to take a little bit of additional injury risk, these are them. And we don't want to get ahead of ourselves, but this is it. How about we take it that way in terms of making it the Super Bowl, and then we'll worry about that when that comes up. One of the things I still want the offensive line to do, because it's more valuable for Lamar Jackson than it is for other teams, is to continue to provide some extended pockets. What we saw from Ronnie Stanley this last week and from Moses for that matter. Both of them scored extremely highly. They hardly had any errors. Moses didn't have a negative event, but he allowed Lamar to get flushed once. Yep. So that was a slight adjustment against him. Stanley's only negative event was the false start. He looked as good as he has probably since 2020 before the injury.
Wow.
So he was out in space. He made great blocks. There was just so much to love about his play this last weekend. It couldn't be happening at a better time.
I don't think
could not be happening.
I don't think I saw a brace either on his knee or anything.
That's interesting. I wasn't really looking for it, honestly, but I'll tell you what I did see. I saw very good flexibility. I saw what's really important is he was doing more to attack the opposing pass rusher and keep him at a distance from the pocket than what he had been doing, which has always been part of his game. Like going back to his very first year in the league, mirroring effectively and continuing to obstruct the path to the quarterback is something he does very naturally and very well. The problem earlier this year had become he's giving up too much ground to do it. Yep. And so what I saw in this game was he's doing a very good job, 8 yards away, 6 yards away from Lamar, of continuing to keep that pocket wide and frustrating that edge defender who in some cases were making multiple moves to try and get home.
I'm excited. I'm excited for this game. I'm continuing to see the growth from. It's not even growth. We know what he's capable of. It's just getting back to that point. He's making a hell of a decision coming up after this offseason we have to make a decision. I don't know what we're going to do. It might be a 2-year project. Some people make it a 1-year thing, but it's going to take some time on Stanley, I think. And hopefully he continues to make it hard these next 2 games.
Yeah, it is the big decision for the organization. But I think right now, if I had to handicap it, I'd say they're looking at a 2-year plan at left tackle. They're not trying to solve it in 1, which is, by the way, that is so good that they can be in that position because the barrier to entry at left tackle, as we know, is very high. It still is going to mean they have to draft the next left tackle, even if he plays somewhere else or develops somewhere else in this next draft.
Very true.
Last thing I'll point it to, and this is the Chiefs defense is what it is. I mean, they certainly have weaknesses against the run. The Ravens need to stay on schedule in this game. They need to, 2nd and 5, 2nd and 4, 3rd and 2 kind of situation. They definitely want to use the run and whatever they're doing in terms of replicating the run with short passes as well. They have to use that and stay on schedule against this Chiefs defense. You can't put yourselves in 3rd and long situations and let them figure out exactly how they're going to get home because they're very good at it. Need to basically have manageable 3rd downs. And I don't normally rely on that as a single matchup thing, but in this particular game, Lamar being who he is, it's really going to be a lot more effective if they can avoid those 3rd and long situations.
Yeah, and I think in terms of the running game, I anticipate us to attack the inside of their defense. Only reason why I say that is that I noticed that Monken doesn't call stretch or outside zone plays until later in the game when the defense gets really tired. You can see that on, the second to last drive where Justice Hill broke for about 14 yards and the Ravens offensive line got push. I mean, they were in the second level quick, also on the Dalvin Cliff run as well. So I will continue to see them probably use Lamar as the outside threat or
inside threat, probably, right?
Yeah, sorry, inside threat, and then have Justice Hill or Cook as the outside threat, and then continue to run Gus on the counter reads and things of that nature, making an emphasis to attack, point of attack.
I'm sorry for finishing your sentence there, but if it is a sidecar formation, I think we'll see more sidecar than not.
Yep.
Then he's definitely the inside threat. If it's a pistol, then he can do a lot of things. He can be under center. He can use play action like we saw on 4th and 1. I mean, there's all kinds of things he can do that would still leave him as an outside threat. I'll say this, that the Chiefs have been very weak against runs out of shotgun. That's been all over Twitter this week. I don't know if you've seen it, but it's something they've been bad generally against the run. They've been really bad against shotgun runs. And what that means likely is that the mesh point is probably giving them a lot of trouble with their defensive reads on plays. And so that Lamar is particularly well suited to read that edge defender And this, I think, for that reason as well, this could be another big run game for Lamar in terms of reading effectively and making his magic happen.
Only reason why I kind of consider Lamar outside threat on the read option is because last week we could see him inside card pulling quick, and he did it in the beginning of the game, and I can anticipate him doing the same thing, not playing around and just taking the ball. So
yeah, it's just, you know, obviously Lamar's very multifaceted. I don't want to paint him into any one particular thing, but what they've been very effective doing at since 2020, they actually ran their offense out of pistol primarily in 2019. But since 20, they've been running primarily out of out of sidecar, also shotgun. And when they do that, it's the teams that have run themselves out of position so regularly have made it so easy for Lamar to be much more of a middle threat. So anyway, we'll see that. I mean, I'm sure we're going to see plenty of Gus Edwards in this game. Very nice to see that he hasn't been on the injury list this week. I thought was one of the really big findings of yesterday, given that he seemed to walk off the game holding his arm funny with about 11 minutes to go.
And I think the main reason why we didn't see him back is because we had Dalvin Cook as great insurance not to really force him back. So I think it was probably just the quick little stinger, and he should be back for this game. There's no reason why Gus would miss this.
Yep, I concur completely. Well, Frazier, always a pleasure to do this show with you. Tell folks where they can find your work online.
You guys can reach me at X/Twitter at F_RAVE8. That's F_Rave8.
All right, other folks out there, if you'd like to be on a Film Study short, hit me up. DMs are always open on Twitter. If you've got a pre-Super Bowl topic, we can discuss that. Hopefully that'll still be an option after this week. And even if not, I'd love to hear your thoughts on off-season shows and series that we might do. And that includes if you'd like to do the thing with me directly, which I always want as the first option, because if you're passionate about it, it's going to be more fun to do it with somebody who wants to talk about that topic. But also, if there are things you want to learn about, you know, is my offensive line scoring system well enough defined? Do you want me to do a whole video on how that works? Do you want to see all of the great websites that are out there for looking at football data and really finding, you know, what's available that way? Thinking about doing a series on that anyway. If you got franchise building series or evolution of the game series or that kind of thing, off season is the time for that, because we can take some real time, do 3 or 4 episodes if you want to, and put a show like that together. But I always appreciate your ideas nonetheless. If all you want to do is contribute to Film Study Mailbag, please do that as well. Hashtag Film Study Mailbag for Friday Morning GM and the Offense and Defensive Show. Frazier, by the way, be joining me for the Offense Show after the AFC Championship game. We're looking forward to breaking that down for you. Frazier, you good with that?
100%. Ready to go.
And anyway, that should be a lot of fun, we hope, again, after that. And again, we hope there's another set of shows next week, but at least for this week, look for that separate defensive show. It should be out the next day, which I think will mean Saturday morning. It should be out. And if you've missed one or the other, or you're listening to one or the other, make sure you go back and listen to the other one as well. For Frazier Depar, this is Ken McCusick saying goodbye. And we'll talk to you next week, we hope, on Matchups.